Only been home for like 15 minutes.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another live stream sponsored by the Christian Comic Arts Society. My name is Joffrey Strout, and today we are going to have a live stream film discussion about the latest Ghostbusters installation, the Ghostbusters Afterlife. So today we are joined by our discussion panelists or participants, Shelley Mullock, Hector Mire, just wave you guys, Nathan Hall and Holly Kneverbold Hall. I always get that wrong. Okay. All right, so let's start off with first impressions. Like, what did you guys, what stuck out to you the most? What did you stuck out to you the most about the new film? Somebody really likes Ghostbusters. I see you're
that's
right there, Hector.
I didn't. Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about that when we get to some other stuff. But I've actually, my favorite Ghostbusters thing, I was going to grab it, but we were actually starting and I want to stop. But I've got way up here in the corner, if you like, right about there on my shelf, I've got a statue of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man wearing a karate headband doing a crane kick. And it's like one of my favorite things in the world. But I would have knocked a lot of things down to get to it. But I really, like, general impression, I really enjoyed it. I can walk away from it saying that it was easily the film I enjoyed most in theaters. I'm not going to say it's the best movie I watched in theaters this year, but it's the film I enjoyed the most. And as far as just entertainment value, feels, multi-generation gap bridging thing, because like I was really excited about the 2016 Ghostbusters for the simple fact I have 3 daughters, and for them to have like Ghostbusters that's like, hey, it's us, versus, you know, what I grew up with. But like this was, I really enjoyed a lot of it just because of the full multi-generational thing with you know, all the classic elements, but the fact that my daughters watch, you know, Trevor, the character from the dude that's in the show, that's one of the main guys on Stranger Things. So that's a show my kids already like established that kid with supernatural stuff. And, you know, that kid's literally been on Supernatural, Stranger Things, It, and Ghostbusters. So it's like, way to go, kid. But so it's one of those things for me. I enjoyed the broad stretch of it, and going down the like toy aisle now and seeing like not only new toys like this kid, but like the fact that they have the proton pack toys from the 80s, like the actual 80s quality looking stuff on the toy shelves again. It's just been really neat to bring everything back with that. And so yeah, that's one of the things I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah, those packs are sweet. I remember wanting to make one the worst way, like back when I was a kid. Like I wanted to build my own.
I did, and it was terrible.
What was that?
I did, and it was terrible.
Yeah, I think I did too. Mine was also bad. Yeah, I was looking at all the tech in the film this time. I was like, that would have been so cool because they get so deep into it and stuff. I would have geeked out so much as a kid.
And it was the other thing too of like I legitimately, you know, as a kid, I thought that would have been awesome. But like literally when Phoebe picked up the pack and started messing with it, I'm like, no, that's dangerous. Like the parent in me was like, that's not safe.
That's true. It's an atomic bomb. Don't touch it. All right. It's just also just anybody else, in case anybody's watching it, please do enter any comments in the chat comments, and we'll try to incorporate that as we go if we get a chance. And also we're going to try to keep this first part spoiler free, so anybody who hasn't seen it, you know, let's we'll try to accommodate you, so we'll let you know when we're going into spoiler land. So all right, anyone else on what stuck out to you the most?
I think kind of what stuck out to me most was just overall it was just a really good sequel to the original. Like, it was very much paying homage to it, but still doing its own. Like, it was that really good balance between like, this is what we did before and new stuff, I felt like. And I felt like it was being very respectful to the original material and still taking it in another direction in a great way.
Yeah, I'll agree with that completely, but I'll also add that the movie, unlike a lot of movies that come out these days, that kind of harken back to older movies, this one had a lot of heart to it. It was a very endearing film.
Yes.
Like if we had kids, I would take them to see it like immediately.
Yeah. Really?
For me, I had, and everybody gives me a really hard time about this, but I had actually never seen the original or any of the Ghostbusters. Like, I'm coming from another country, give me a break. We didn't have access. But I had never watched it. And so that night, the night I went to go see it, I also watched the first one for the first time and then watched the second one. So like, for me, I knew that it was like a beloved, sort of genre or movie. But I watched the first one and then literally like stepped into the theater and watched the second one. And I thought it was great. Like I agree with everything everybody said. Like it was really fun. It felt like it connected with the first one, just from like an outside perspective, like having just seen the first one for the first time, like it did kind of flow into the new one. So that was cool.
Yeah. So some of us having not seen, some of us live with the original for a while before getting into this one. So what are some expectations? Like, what did you, to what extent did it meet your expectations? What extent did it like subvert them? Anybody?
I'll start that one. This met my expectation in that the trailer made it look very good. And that's really weird because like usually the trailer, in order to like to draw audiences to the theater, will like show a bunch of stuff that's in the movie, will capitalize on like some like the very few jokes that are in it, and will likely ruin really important plot points. Zack Snyder. I can't. I know. But this one didn't. Like from the beginning, like when they first, like the teaser trailer was actually really interesting, and then like the other trailers that I saw after that were very very sparse as it pertains to the direction that the story was going to go. It just showed some of the more higher action scenes, just a little bit of it, just to get you interested, and then left it to audiences to make their own conclusion as to whether they were going to go watch the movie or not. And unlike the trailer for the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, it actually looked legitimately good. So that's a major plus for me. I suppose I should say it. I don't really mean to clown on the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, but it is so darn easy. I kid. I mostly kid. But so the expectation my expectation that was made was the expectation that was made for me was that it would be just a straightforward good movie, and I got that. It was a good story throughout. What subverted my expectation? Not really much. Oh no, there was one. I would have thought that Finn Wolfhard would have gotten more screen time than McKenna Grace. I'm not salty about that at all, but that's just where I thought it was going to go, and it didn't.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. Yeah,
I would agree with that. Like I was purposefully keeping my expectations low because I had been disappointed by the 2016 movie. And then also like having grown up with Ghostbusters, I adore the first movie, and the second movie, it's okay. It's not brilliant. So like I was kind of like, okay, they might knock it out of the park, but it could be like Ghostbusters 2. So like, the trailer looked good. So yeah, I kind of kept it low, and I was very pleasantly surprised. The trailer absolutely paid off what it promised. And I don't think I had any other preconceived because I was trying to go in so like whatever, it's all good.
All right, anyone else?
For me, honestly, like I think I had expectations heavily just on the directorial element. So sorry, my phone is being bananas. I had heavy expectations when it came to the directorial element, having Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, directing it. The guy who made the first two, his son directing this one, and actually having his dad on set while he was filming. Like that's a lot of weight. So like I was looking for directorial, like, okay, good job. Okay, cool. Keep going. I'm also grateful that Wolfheart was like, it didn't subvert my expectations, but I was grateful that Wolfheart wasn't the main focus, because as much as I love Stranger Things and it and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't need another like just Finn vehicle. Once the kid had his own Weezer music video, I'm like, I'm done with you. And so that was, it was good in that right for me. My only like subvert thing was like no Slimer. Like my kids were like, please, and I'm like, oh no, it's not looking that way, guys, sorry. The Muncher was cool, but like my kids literally were waiting through the whole thing just to see Slimer. And but because my kids had literally only seen the 2016 version. And so the week of the release, we watched the first two. So it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Like we watched all three in a row like that. So like they went into it with fresh eyes with that. So that was it. It did not disappoint me. I didn't walk out with any unmet expectations. And I'll leave this for when we're not spoilery, but we're spoiled. But like the post-credit inclusion, like, because they got me well with that. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? Oh, hi. And that was like, that was good. But I was happy with the whole process. And in fact, and this was another expectation thing that just like, Ghostbusters to me always has at least one banger on a soundtrack. Like for me, like the original song was always good. When I was like the sequel had Bobby Brown's In Control. And I remember growing up like at the skating ring dancing on the Bobby Brown's In Control with that. And the song in the post credits, or not the song in the post credits, but the song in the credits is actually McKenna Grace. Like the deep haunting girl song at the end, that's McKenna Grace. Like, and she dropped a single for the movie. So it's just like, oh, okay. So that was another like, go ahead and flex, Will Smith, do your own soundtrack. But yeah.
All right. I didn't have any expectations because I'd never seen it. But I mean, having just seen it, I was just hoping it would make sense like more because I had seen the first one. So for me, I mean, I guess all I can say is my expectation was that it would fit well together with the next one, and it did. So for me, I was like, cool. Good.
Yeah. Oh, so I forgot to do this. So why don't we go around quick, and how would you, out of 5 stars, what would you give it?
Out of 5. Okay.
4.5.
Nice.
I had so much fun that it's not a perfect movie, but I'd still give it a 5.
5. Okay.
It was just so fun.
Yeah.
4.5. And that's just because I don't want to put too much pressure, but yeah.
Okay. Sally,
I was going to say 4, but I'll go with the whole 4.5 scheme because it was really fun.
First time we ever agreed on something.
Well, it's also nice to actually do one of these discussions and have a movie that's like north of the middle. So that's good too.
Yeah.
Hey, it's been a while since like you feel like, oh, that was a really, really, satisfying experience. We haven't had a bunch of those. Okay, so all right, so let's see. Did anything stick out as like the you felt like, well, you mentioned the directing, Hector, like, so is the son of the original. Did anything that did anything stick out that is characteristic in terms of style, or things that they focused on that made it distinct? I don't know, Ivan or
Ivan and Jason Reitman.
Ivan and Jason. I don't know Jason Reitman's work.
I don't either. I literally only knew he was following in his dad's footsteps, which I thought was cool. Kind of went with the whole theme of everything. For me, like one of the biggest, like, just things that made it really solidified was not just like the playlist soundtrack, but the audio of it. Like, it had a lot of the same like spooky sound effects, like some of the same noises, like as far as like the background music for things, like it was very fluid from all three of those. And like, honestly, the sound of a proton pack switching on, like there wasn't a point in the 2016 film where I heard that and got goosebumps. This did. And I know it's like, again, not pooping on 2016s, but like when the first time it switched on, it literally gave me goosebumps. And then like when the Ecto one hit the siren in the middle of the street, literally I was like, ah! So I think a lot of the audio cues were good, and it's also too a lot of the film transitions, like when they were changing scenes, had a very distinct way that they did it from the original films. Like they had, because like Star Wars has that like literal pan swipe in the originals. Right. This had a lot of the directorial aspects. Like you could tell that it was like intentionally trying to fit the same film feeling.
Yeah. Something I picked up on because we rewatched the original with Shelly, and I watched it, and I was like, just the beginning, like our friend Josh knows what kind of instrument it is, where it's just that really ethereal sounding sort of flute sound that at the very beginning, kind of, it's wavery, really haunting. And I just remember when it opened with that, I was just like, oh yes, like it's just nailed that, the flavor, the atmosphere so well. So I was very impressed with that part.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I don't think I noticed it because they did such a good job, maybe, like, because it just kind of flowed from the one to the other for me. And like that, I mean, that says something, that I wasn't like a jolt, Yeah, I could see that. I could see the things you're saying.
Actually, speaking of, I did notice when the cinematography changed a little bit between following, what's her name? Phoebe, and following Trevor. Because like when you started following Trevor, it kind of shifted into this like weird like coming of age story type of cinematography, where you've got like the thing that really stuck out to me is like this one shot where he's getting out of a car with his buddies from work, and it's that like handheld kind of like overexposed sunset kind of.
It reminded me of the first Transformers movie more than Ghostbusters.
A little bit, yeah. But like it fit with him. And then when you went back to Phoebe, it was a lot more grounded. It was like a much more traditional frame, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah, I didn't
either. So sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, so what aspects worked well, and then we'll get into what didn't work well. So we've already talked.
Are we in spoiler territory now?
Sure, we can go into spoiler territory. Go for it. Spoilers, everybody. Warning, spoilers. Okay, now go for it. Anybody? What worked well, what didn't work well?
For me, honestly, because if you go by the trailer stuff, like they did well, like you knew that there was going to be a connection to Egon somewhere in there, but the fact that the story started out as an Egon story, I wasn't fully expecting that, and how they portrayed it, the way they used the shadow and the darkness and everything else to not give you the full-blown, here's a badly dressed young actor doing it or anything like that. Like the fact that it was believable that it was Egon in those situations, that worked really well for me. I felt like the mom was the weakest link in the character chain. Like I don't know, like it felt to me like she just wasn't, I don't know, there's something didn't quite click. If anything didn't work for me, it was just the mom. And I don't know if it was casting, performance, or whatever else. But it didn't, she was not my favorite with that. But she wasn't bad. Just
I feel like she was just a little one note, and they just, because of the story, they couldn't really like they had to throw in enough so you cared and got the gist of it, but the focus was so much on the kids, they didn't really have time to develop her like a full 3D character.
Yeah, definitely that. And then with the jumping away spoilers. Well, also, but like tying it back to the guy who built the original building, like I forget his name. I'm gonna say Ivo
Shandor.
Yeah, Ivo Shandor. The fact that it tied it all the way back to that and the architecture and the metal and everything, I was like, okay, that's plausible. Like I enjoyed that. The whole thing with the well of like ectoplasm and everything else coming up, and the fact that Egon had rigged like a fail safe for it and everything else, I was just like, that's freaking brilliant. And then when with the thing with the Gohan Super Saiyan 2 moment of like Ghost Egon like Kamehamehaing with Phoebe, like that was literally like all you had to do was see the little hand come around, and I'm like openly weeping in the theater, and I didn't even get anywhere else. But like if they would have just put the hand like there, I would have been like, thanks guys. But like the way they all did it and having each of them acknowledge him and everything just like ripped me apart. So I thought all of that went really well. The only thing I didn't really think was like, I felt like the applause, like the big cameo of the other three wasn't crazy logical to me, or like it felt like a little empty. I'm glad they were there and I was super happy that it happened, but I thought one of the plot points was that Egon stole all their equipment. And so for the three of them to show up with functioning proton packs was like,
I didn't even think about that, Hector, but you're right.
I don't know. I felt like they just had their proton packs and Egon took whatever was left at the headquarters.
That was kind of how I had canned it, because I had the same question, but I was like, he took everything that wasn't like elsewhere. So they might have had some old ones laying around.
But they had 4 packs or 5 packs strapped to the well thing.
Yeah, I was assuming that those were the original the packs that he took, but I also kind of headcanoned that, you know, like who knows how long it had been since he left. Like there was a whole Ghostbusters 2 and everything. They probably had multiple packs by the time he left.
Well, it's also entirely possible that...
But it was a weak point. Yeah.
It's also entirely possible that what he had was in the Ecto-1.
So what I'm hearing is that there's like, the audience is free to sort of come up with a headcanon, fill in the gaps, but there were gaps. I think there was definitely a gap there.
Oh, for sure. Like there's one in particular, like since we're in spoiler territory, when Phoebe calls Ray and he makes the comment about how the firehouse is now a Starbucks, and oh shoot, at the end, no, it wasn't.
That one was that was the
that specifically is why I rate this movie a 4.5.
That's fair.
But I also think that was an after the fact idea.
I think so too. That's what it felt like to me.
Like the Winston thing, I felt like that was let's develop this a little bit more.
It's possible, and honestly, it's entirely plausible.
I will also say, since we're in spoilers now, like with Egon's ghost, I love the way that he never really showed up until the end. You just saw like the light move or whatever. That was brilliantly done. And then at the end, I was really so glad that they just made him silent.
Yes.
And didn't try to fake his voice or anything like that. That was just, to me, it was very respectful. And it also really made the story more impactful than like, oh, that's not who I was expecting.
Yeah. That was actually interesting because I thought we were talking about it afterwards, and the term respectful. Like I think this film, it was respectful to the source in a way that like you don't get in a lot of sequels. It just felt like it was really
also quite respectful to the actor and the character of Egon, since he's not with us anymore. Like I think they did a very good job of being respectful to him in this and giving him a good send-off.
Speaking of that send-off, this is the only time in a theater that I was almost driven to murder somebody.
Yeah.
Wait, Joff, were you and Shelley there for that?
Yeah.
We were all the way on the other end though.
Okay,
yeah,
so
we
you guys,
missed it, but I heard.
So there were some like teenagers like giggling right behind me during that part.
Oh no!
Like, yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, during the like traumatic like
During the part where like
scene.
during the one part that justifies the mom's existence in the entire movie.
Mhm.
And to be fair, it was wonderfully done and like emotionally arresting. But I had these little jerks giggling behind me. I might have been a little salty about that still. But I guess
Such a good moment.
it was a really good moment, and there were so many good moments in this movie, and a lot of it worked. Like a lot of it worked for me. What didn't work, however, for half the movie was Trevor. I had some trouble with it. The movie, I feel like, just didn't really have a ton to do with this kid up until like stuff happens and he can't ignore that stuff is happening, and is okay. Then he's like, okay, what do we do now? And joins the team. But like before that, he's kind of useless.
So I have the theory, my personal opinion, that Trevor wasn't an existing character originally, that it was just Phoebe and it was just the mom. And then coming off of Stranger Things and they're like, ooh, let's tie this kid in. And because literally there's nothing he does that couldn't have been done by Paul Rudd or anyone else, Lucky or anyone else. Like it added the boy girl dating element with Lucky and him and everything like that. But literally he could have been anybody. He was near about a cardboard cutout.
Yeah. For that first half.
Yeah, for the first half.
My
like relationship with his sister.
It felt very real for kids with a single mom.
Yeah.
Also what I really liked is like while I'm totally clowning on him for being a little useless throughout the whole movie, they wouldn't have won without him at the end.
No.
Like they would not have been able to capture Gozer at the end of the movie.
They wouldn't have made it out there because he was the one that fixed the car on the road trip in the very beginning.
That too.
Like 4 times.
Yeah, that's actually a detail that I missed that you pointed out. So when he's like working on the Ecto-1, it's entirely plausible that he has the capability to do it.
I do like that they tied in that he's got that part of his grandpa. He's got the like mechanical ability. Since the daughter has so much of like the head knowledge, it was cool to see him get like at least a piece of him so that we could connect him with him.
It was really nice too to have Egon just fix that one little wire for him.
Yeah,
because I was like, how are you not even going to interact with your grandson? And you just like, it's like, play in the yard.
Yeah, it's
like just to tie into your comment about like he didn't have to do anything, Paul. Judd didn't have to do. I think his name's what, Gruberson or something, Dr.
Gary Gruberson.
Gruberson, there you go. I was kind of bummed that he just kind of like they did such a good job with his character at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to see more of what they're going to do with him. And maybe the mom will change from that one note character that's just mad at her dad. And then like it kind of didn't go anywhere. They kind of didn't take that anywhere. So if I had anything to say, because I really do like this movie. So I'm like trying to think of things, but that would be like, I kind of was surprised that they just kind of were like developed him and then like he just didn't really do much.
At the end, we were talking in the theater and we're like, he kind of just for the last bit just became the Rick Moranis stand-in.
Yes.
And I wish that was cool to see, like that was funny, but I wish after that he had more of his character back for
yeah,
the, you know.
yeah. Since they took the time to develop him in a fun way with the daughter, you know, like it was
actually
yeah.
it would have been really cool to see him like handle a proton pack, given that he was such a fanboy of the team.
That's true.
Oh, that would have been
yeah.
cool. You could have brought the fanboy into it a little bit with him there.
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't go beyond saying he's actually part of the crew if they do a sequel to this.
Oh
yeah.
Oh,
He's
yeah. I
absolutely
think he's
part
gonna
of
be
the crew.
brilliant if they do a follow-up to this one. Also, okay, what's the actor's name who played the guy that's caused all of this?
Oh, J.K. Simmons.
That they got J.K. Simmons for like a 30-second cameo. That was kind of amazing to me.
Yeah, the Evo Shandor.
We totally could not see that it was him in the case. By the way.
No,
I don't think it was. I think it was like a prop.
it might have been.
That's a good point. Maybe it wasn't.
It might have been like a wax.
He was like,
spot.
I will do 30 seconds of talking.
And then too, like the fact that not Blake Lively, the woman who played Gozer in this one,
Olivia Wilde.
Olivia Wilde.
I'm cheating. I'm looking it up right now.
No, it's like I thought it was Emma Stone at first, like when she first came off the thing, but like they did a really good job with her.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, that Gozer looks great.
Yeah. And very like an upgraded version, but still like you could tell it was Gozer. It reminded you of the original Gozer.
It's like they didn't really try to improve the design of the characters. Like Gozer is back, and this is exactly how you remember her.
Yeah.
If I could say it, I might be in the minority here, but I freaking loved Podcast in this movie.
Oh, Podcast was great.
Podcast was awesome.
That's great. Yeah,
the fact that Ray was his one subscriber was like that was fantastic.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that was a very fun little add-on for sure.
That was cute. Yeah.
Well, like he kind of comes off as this like comic relief / awkward best friend archetype that everybody like the blend of which that everybody seems to really hate, but he works.
He's her.
He just did it well. Yeah.
And I like their little friendship was moving.
Oh yeah. I also loved how baffled she was to have a friend.
Yeah, she's like, wait, that's what that is?
Okay. I don't know what to do with this, but okay.
You're still around. Yes.
That was
very good.
Yeah. I mean, there were obviously there was obviously a mistake or two in the movie.
I have to bring up the mini marshmallow men.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, the marshmallow men thing. Oh my gosh.
There was zero logic in that.
That was weird. Logic. Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, it was cute, but I was like,
care. That's the brilliance of it. I actually don't care that there's zero logic. I do also love that like they showed up like and were messing with stuff in the car and were a problem at the end instead of just like this weird thing in the grocery store.
Yeah, that
and the Walmart ad.
Yeah. But yeah, like they were just hilarious and terribly morbid all at the same time.
It was disturbing.
And, I thought it was great that they, through that little thing, they were doing the worst things to each other.
It's true.
Oh my gosh, disturbing things that they did to each other where it's like you're laughing, but you're also like, oh no.
Yeah.
The other thing
cringe
was
laughing.
The very opening sequence, I agree with you that how they handled Egon was brilliant, but it was a little bit tonally odd to me because it very much in doing that filmed a little bit more actual horror than I'm used to from Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah.
And so like I had that moment because I don't really do horror well where I was like, uh-oh, like it looks fun. Am I in trouble? And then fortunately I was not. It was a brilliant movie. But yeah, that very first sequence was very like, oh, this is channeling some horror films here.
Yeah, it had like the Jeepers Creepers vibe and everything.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm with you on that one, Holly, because I am not a big horror person either. Like it's just not my genre. Like I was okay with it, but it definitely I wouldn't have loved it if they had stayed with that flavor.
Same.
Like
Same.
yeah,
I thought it was a great intro and it set up a good tension. But if they had kept that level, I would have not had as much fun at all in this movie. I'm glad that they went back with the tone of the original.
If we hadn't had that though, think about it, there was like no remotely menacing presence.
Oh yeah, no, it was absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
It was absolutely necessary. I just noticed that it was definitely a little tonally different than other parts.
At the very least, this one actually, like when that happened, it made me go, huh?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And to the movie's credit, again, like it paid off at the end. Like my thought with regard to the way that this movie goes is like, just there are nice. I feel like there wasn't really a for what they did, there really wasn't a wasted moment in it. It was a very tightly contained story. And everybody gets a moment. Everybody has a chance to do something. And I really did enjoy that. I did hear some rumblings that a lot of people didn't like the amount of fan service that was in this movie, and I'd like to address that a little bit.
Please do.
There was a lot of fan service in this movie, in a Ghostbusters movie. Who'd have thought? But the way that I think about it is I kind of take this movie and another one I'll clown on a little bit. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Yeah. Where with The Force Awakens, it's got fan service all over the place. It's constantly hitting you with moments from the original trilogy to say, hey, we're going back to this feeling. And I feel like Ghostbusters Afterlife did the same thing, but competently, where you kind of had to have these fan service moments to tie it in with the original movies, because of course we're going back to the feel of the originals, but it handled it in such a way that it wasn't as jarring to see these moments. It was fan service in service of the story that they were trying to tell, instead of fan service in order to get fans in the seats. That's all I had.
This was a love letter, not a gimmick.
Yeah.
That's the way it felt.
Yeah.
Because I feel like not everything, but I think the people who, I mean, I'm not one of these people, so I'm guessing here, but I think when people are bothered by fan service, again, I think that's a term that maybe you need to nail down, because people might mean different things by it. But when people are bothered by it, I think it's because they feel like it would like pulls you out of the story, and it doesn't like puts things in there that don't really further the story, don't have so much to do with what's going on in this thing. I don't know if that's accurate, but if that's the concern, I feel like this one is pretty safe, because so much of what happens that was old was like directly connected to what's going on in the new. So I'm not sure if that's.
I think I could like actually help with this, because I just watched the movie, right? So like, if I could watch it and still enjoy it, and not be one of those people that's known it for a very long time and they had to pull at my heartstrings the whole time, right? Like, I watched it and I thought it was just a great movie. Like, it was capturing, it was funny. Yeah, I had just watched the first one and it tied in, so that was good. But it was a good movie just by itself. So I agree, Nathan. Like, I think that the people who say that it's just done, like there's too much homage paid, it's the old, I don't think that's true, because like I think I would have felt like I was just watching the same movie again, back to back, and it definitely was a new movie. So
I'll say too that I honestly feel like this was a better sequel to the first one than the second one.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I've never seen the second one, and I keep having people say, don't bother.
It's worth watching.
I would say watch that one. The one I would say maybe don't bother is the 2016 one, but I also admit my bias there. I was.
Oh, are there two other sequels besides the one?
There's a complete reboot
sequel, and 2016 was a complete reboot.
It's with an all-female cast of Ghostbusters from almost all of them are from SNL.
Also directed by Paul Feig.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will say this: just while we're talking on 2016, I really enjoyed Kate McKinnon's character, but Kate McKinnon's character wasn't necessarily even a Ghostbuster. I just enjoyed her humor.
That's fair.
That's what I keep hearing from people. Like, for people who watched this movie that I've spoken to about it, who wanted to talk about the movie itself, was like, it wasn't great, but Kate McKinnon was really funny.
And that's all. It was a good Kate McKinnon vehicle, and I don't know if it was anything past that. Also, seeing Chris Hemsworth go way deep on the wacky comedy was like, ugh.
Honestly, part of my disappointment was Chris Hemsworth was the funniest person in the movie for me, and I was like, come on, you're 4 female comedians, step up.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I did not have a good time in that one, so I was excited to have, you know, something that ties back to the originals instead of a reboot. Like, I always thought, you know, I grew up with the cartoon or multiple cartoons. So like, I always thought that was the way, like you have the next generation of Ghostbusters or you franchise it out. Like, I don't want all new reboot. I want a continuation. And like, I got that finally.
Like don't do a do-over. Give me Extreme Ghostbusters. That did it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extreme Ghostbusters was really well. Now, I had the other thought too, is if the fact that the original cast showed up in the reboot though, I kind of low key really wanted the reboot actresses to have a cameo in this one.
Oh, they'd never have done it.
I know, but I'm just saying I wouldn't have hated it. Like
I wouldn't hate that if they did like, and they keep going with this, if they did like a cameo at some point, I wouldn't hate that either.
Like if they would have just been ghosts or something, I would have been cool with it. But, you know,
oh no, that would have been worse.
That would have been hilarious. Oh man. All right. Let's figure. So let's try some like big picture stuff. Like if we talk about the significance of this film. So again, the significance of a story is I've seen it defined as determined by the power of its comment on the human condition. So what comment is being made in this movie about what it is to be human or struggle with the struggles that we have? What is universal that this story touches on? Does anything stick out to you guys?
I would go with sacrifice and protection. I mean, that was Egon's whole story. He sacrificed his relationship with his daughter and with his grandkids in order to protect them so that they would have a future.
Yeah. On that note, the importance of reconciliation when you have a larger picture of things. That actually really spoke to me personally, and it probably would have spoken to me more if I didn't have jerk teenage kids giggling in my ear.
Oh,
I'm not letting that go.
I'm so sorry. Sad. That's sad. I'm sorry.
But no, that was a very important theme. A theme of self-acceptance was in there too with Phoebe's character. Also, weirdly with Trevor's character, where he's like, you've got this kid who's like just trying to fit in with everybody, and it's only when he steps up in service of his family and to I guess honor the legacy that it was kind of born into, is he's being himself, and two, he really shines.
Yeah, I can see those.
I think for me, like, definitely the family theme that you guys were talking about is there. From a different angle on the family theme thing, I could point out or say it was refreshing, like because Igor was a sort of an absent dad, like that was hard, and it was I think they did a good job of showing how like that does leave a mark for the daughter, that he's not present, that isn't just like doesn't matter kind of character. And we're seeing that, I feel like we're seeing that a lot in a lot of shows these days. Like, kids are, you know, the smartest, parents are stupid, you know, like, or you know, nobody really needs the balance of you know, parents or anything like that. There's I think maybe there's a lot of emphasis on like different family model types, but to the point where I don't see any of like the sort of mom, dad, kids model very often anymore. And with this one, I really appreciated that Igor was absent, but he was absent for
Egon. Yeah, he's
Egon. Sorry, Igor's the monster guy. Sorry about that. Egon, yes, Egon was he was missing from her life, but like you said, Holly, it was for a reason. Like, he was doing like the honorable role of protecting, and I thought, like, that's cool to see that, not that he was gone, but that he was doing something. He wasn't just like a bumbling parent, or just an absent person for no reason, absent dad for no reason. So it definitely brought to the front for me family dynamics and relationships, and kind of why they matter, and like what roles matter in families. So
yeah, that makes sense. Anything else?
I think that really hit home when you had that scene where where Callie goes into the basement and finds all the pictures that were on Egon's wall.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't absent for no reason. In fact, he, like, unlike how she processed everything, he loved her very much and was willing to do whatever he could to protect her.
Yeah, I'm still actually curious about that. Like, honestly, like it's very clear that is the point of that scene, but it just makes me wonder, like, why was he incommunicado, right? Why do all the things he did and care so much, and yet have so little communication? So, like, kind of going to what Shelley said, like, you can have a loving parent who loves their kid like to no end, but if they don't express it, the impact on the kid is that, like, they think their parent doesn't care, right? So, that could be kind of universal as well.
I think a lot of that would have been different, and not the throw shade specifically on the others. I don't know that Egon would have had to go completely abandonment level if the rest of the team would have actually went with him, or like bought into the vision or jumped in, because I feel like there was a point where he reached out to his team, they rejected him, and without them, I think that he thought that was his only option. Yeah. Because if he would have taken his family out there, they would have gotten killed. And I think that was just like, if you love me enough and you think I'm just trying to help, you'll probably follow, and somebody's going to get hurt. And I think that's why it had went down that way. I think the fact that he reached out to them and they rejected it is why we ended up there. And just on the themes too, and I didn't say anything because, pretty much hit what I was thinking too. It's the having to take a stand on your own, sacrifice, reconciliation. The other thing too is just like going back to the original squad, is that don't leave your people abandoned when they come to you with stuff that's, difficult. Because the fact that how many times we see people say, oh, I just wish I'd known they needed help or whatever, and then he actually showed up and they were just like, I'm over it. I think a lot of people fall by the wayside, and the fact that we're so bogged down with our own stuff that we're not willing to actually give when we're needed. And so I think that's something that hit me really hard.
That's good.
That's a really good
your
point,
question about
like
communication. Because like you were saying, he felt like this was the only way to do it because of not having his team behind him. We don't know, story doesn't tell us, but it's entirely possible he tried to stay in communication, but because he left, they didn't want to listen. That's a real thing that happens with people.
Yeah.
And that's,
I mean, most of what we got was just in Ray's phone conversation. So there's not like, there's only so much exposition you could give there without it being like too much.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Shelley?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I agree with you about the exposition. I think it probably ultimately comes down to the fact that it didn't have the actor for Egon around anymore to shoot scenes. But I think in an ideal world, I think this story could have really benefited from like maybe one flashback sequence that shows them kind of having their parting of ways, right? So then when it's not just like, we heard about this thing that happened sort of in shorthand. It's like you see it go bad, and then later when it plays out, you're like, oh, that's why it was. But they didn't have the luxury of doing that.
I mean, I remembered what I was gonna say. The two things I was gonna say to what you said, Joff, like the thing is, it's just not clear, right? Like so I think it's one of those situations that you were talking about before, where there's gaps where we can make our own ideas about why he would have not communicated. Like probably if I had to guess, I would say he thought that they'd be in danger, so he made them hate him so that they wouldn't go. Like you could say lots of reasons. Yeah, you could speculate. And then to what you were saying, Hector, when you were talking about how they that he tried to ask them and they didn't believe him or help him. I also think that's kind of a commentary. It seemed like they were all kind of, I don't know if I'm remembering this right from the movie or if it's just a gist I got, but it felt like they were all kind of busy doing their own things. And like they didn't have time for him, or they didn't have the same level of interest in what he was trying to say as they did before. Like they drifted kind of.
Well, that's like in Ray's little overly informative phone call, he said that Winston had gone into business, Peter had returned to academia, Ray had the bookshop.
Exactly. So okay, so I'm not making that up. Okay, good. I that's great too, because that also is a bit of a sort of thematic reminder that we should pay attention to the people that we care about in our lives and not let those other things drag us away so much that we miss the important moments for those people, so.
Yeah. Holly, were you going to say something?
No, I think I answered my own question.
Okay.
I was trying to remember what happens all in Ghostbusters 2, because it's been years since I watched that one. And I was trying to remember if there was any sort of so I'm pretty sure it had the triumphant end again. But then they were saying that after all the events, like there weren't any ghosts and they fell out of favor and they were getting ridiculed again in the movie. So I was trying to remember if that tied in at all with Ghostbusters 2 or. Well,
they set the precedent in it because even by Ghostbusters 2, they had already quit again.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning of Ghostbusters 2, Winston and Ray are doing kids' birthday parties.
That's right. That's right.
And Peter, like they do such a good job. There's no more ghosts. That Ghostbusters are kids' birthday party favors. Peter has a TV show and Egon's back at school. So like they didn't even last, from 89 to 92. So, it would make sense that they would repeat that.
Yeah, it makes me kind of sad. Is every time there is like that kind of like, how do we reboot this? And that is to like show that they've peaked and then sort of fallen into, they're basically failures in their jobs. To me, it loses a little bit of the mystique. Like I remember I used to watch the animated version where they were, their exploits were, constant. Yeah, and ghosts everywhere. And it was like, yeah, the even in number 2, it's like, oh, I guess they also kind of went out of business real fast. That's not thrilling or exciting. It's more like, oh, that's kind of depressing. I mean, it sets up the movie okay, but it kind of in terms of the entire franchise is kind of just depressing. But let's get past that real quick. We're running almost out of time. So curious if we've all seen the film and various different thoughts on it. Have you guys seen anything in it that brings to light or emphasizes something, an aspect or a truth from scripture that you guys can see, or is maybe inconsistent with something in the Bible that you sort of sticks out?
With what we already said, the concept of standing on your own, like the thing we said he was standing guard when no one else would. That was one of the big things, is that literally being able to stand your ground and walk away from things. One of the scriptures that like really hit me with is when Jesus said that if you're not willing to walk away from your family, your mother, your father, your friends, then you can't actually be my disciple. The fact that, Egon literally said, okay, I'm going to walk away from all of this for that. That was a big thing for me, but also on the reconciliation thing of, what happens when we don't carry each other's burdens, and that needs to be something we do, because I, firmly believe that, had the guys shown up sooner, he'd have, as a character, lived. But like those were my 2 big takeaways of being willing to actually make sacrifice, even if no one else will, or to follow where you're called to be, even if no one else will, and to actually bear each other's burdens.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I definitely think that Egon with an N, just holding fast to being willing to sacrifice himself or for the better of others. I mean, it's a pretty Christological sort of scenario there. I also think the keeping watch, interestingly, as well, because we're told to keep watch and to be aware and to not become complacent, you know. And even though it's like this kind of a stretch, because we're not waiting for, you know, a horrible evil giant to come back, like, but we are meant to keep watch and to not be distracted or, you know, get complacent. So I guess if I had to stretch a theme, that might be one of them.
Nice. Okay. Holly or Nathan, you guys got any?
Go more on the opposite side, since you kind of touched everything I had on the positive, but like just the name Afterlife and dealing with ghosts, like it kind of implies a different afterlife than what we believe is true.
Right.
The one thing I will say though is I like what they did with Egon, because everything else in the movies really seems like a thing or a spirit, not really the ghost of a person.
Right.
Which I appreciate. And then with Egon, like he sticks around until the danger, until his goal, his, you know, duty is done, and then he leaves. He doesn't stay as a ghost. I appreciated that, since that was really not, you know, it made it line up just a tiny bit more. The other thing too is, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but the Bible verse that they keep putting in there, isn't that completely incorrect?
No, that's totally accurate.
Is that totally accurate? I couldn't remember, and I forgot to look it up.
Revelation 6:12 is the one. Now, but here's the thing. In the original Ghostbusters, that happens in a conversation between Winston and Ray.
I remember that conversation.
And
I just thought that there was something off about it.
No, there's something off in the original.
Okay.
In the original, Ray actually quotes it as Revelation 7:12. And that's wrong. It's the wrong chapter. In this one, it's actually the right chapter, the right scripture.
Got it right this time.
They got it right this time. And
Excellent.
And if you notice, Ray had the whole thing tattooed on his arm too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, like in the original, because I'm like made a whole plot hole thing about that the other day, was like the original, they actually have the wrong chapter on it. I'm like, you have a whole movie production team and y'all can't fact check a Bible verse before you post it.
Yeah, that is.
I've got both of them pulled up. So the one from the original is apparently, and this is 7:12. Amen. Praise and glory and wisdom and thanks and honor and power and strength be to our God forever and ever. Amen.
Right. Well, yeah, that's not that.
I don't think they're going for
not what they were going for at all.
Yeah. What they were going for was Revelation 6:12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood.
Yeah.
Little more accurate.
Yeah.
So I was just really grateful they did correct it for this one.
Yeah.
So
okay, so I was remembering the flaw from the original, but it's cool that they have an actual Bible verse in there.
Yeah. Although
context, but
like when in the way they use it, it seems like it's referring to what's happening, and what's happening is not Judgment Day. So it is a little bit like, yay, scripture, but like misapplied. So is that a win? I don't know.
With one hand and take away with the other.
And it would make sense more for me too if Ray was sitting out in the field painting that on a sign.
Yes.
Than if Egon was painting that on the front gate. Now, I get doing that is a good way of keeping people off your property if they think you're a wacko. So if he's doing it for the prospect of, like, you know, disguise and warding off strangers, good job. But it felt like he was channeling some Ray with it, but that's what it felt like for that.
Yeah,
Ray had rubbed off on him. You know, I was just thinking, I watched so much extreme Ghostbusters, and Egon was the only one in there. Like, the fact that he continued and nobody else did made complete sense to me.
Oh, truly.
Like he was the guy behind the theory. So yeah,
and all of the equipment. Yeah.
So I'll leave off with I guess as far as biblical application, I'll lead off with this verse, John 15:13. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. That one fits well for sure.
I like the haunting that's happening over there, Hector. Is that
ghost? No, it's like the Ghost Egon figure came with it. I love it. It's just
no way, seriously?
That's awesome.
So like if you look in like a standard Walmart, Target, or whatever, there's 6 figures. There's Trevor, Lucky, Podcast, Ray, Peter, and Winston, and you can't find a single figure of Phoebe. And so my kids and I are like, what's happening? Why is there no Phoebe? Because it's a part of a 2-pack that's called The Family That Busts Together. And it has Phoebe and Ghost Egon, and it's ridiculously rare and super expensive. And but I just like, I saw it and I was like, yay. On a, not like a plug or anything, but like I wrote a devotional on Afterlife that covers a lot of the stuff that we already talked about, which I didn't really push that. So it's on our website too. So.
Oh, very cool. All right, well, we're done. We're out of time. So yeah, why don't we go around real quick? If anybody has anything online or your projects you're working on, why don't you mention where people can find you or your work before we go? So Hector, why don't you go? Because you just mentioned.
I just did. My bad. Faithandfandom.org. Working on book 8 for the series, but all of the chapters for the new book are up for free on the site and in podcast. So
awesome. Okay. And anyone else?
Oh, you guys can always find me on Twitch Tuesdays, most Tuesdays rather. And let's see, you can find me at twitch.tv/coronavash. I tend to ramble a bunch while I'm playing games, and it's not great, but it's what I do.
Nice. Awesome.
Also, if you're going to be at ALA, I'm going to be in a couple of panels, so feel free to Anime Los Angeles. I forgot abbreviations.
Yes.
If you're going to be at Anime Los Angeles in January, I'm going to be part of a couple of panels, so feel free to hang out with me.
I thought you were doing something with Avatar. I was like, ooh, really?
That'd be the dream. Come on.
Living the dream.
I'm incognito, but I'll plug CFAS and just remind everybody that we're doing these live streams every Thursday, pretty much. So make sure you come back and check out other ones.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. All right. Anyone else? All right. Okay. All right. Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone out there who has been watching, we really appreciate you joining us as well. And yeah, like Shelly said, we will we have these usually every week on Thursday. We might take a break probably for Christmas, so Christmas Eve. But yeah, the plan is to continue on. So Thursdays at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock when we do these film reviews. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us. You guys all have a wonderful week.